Hello everyone, my name is Tal, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager at BIGVU, and I want to welcome you for today's workshop. Thank you for joining us today. Please let me know that you're with us by writing in the chat where you're from and if you know BIGVU. And in the meantime, I just want to note that this workshop will be recorded and available for watching after the live event, so don't worry about missing parts. And of course, as always, we will have a Q&A session, so all of your questions will be answered, and also feel free to ask them during the workshop. So in this workshop, we will learn how to sell when you're not a salesperson. And for this reason, I invited Véronique De Prycker, online B2B strategist, leadership, and expert. Hello, Véronique. How are you?
Hi, Tel. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm great.
Well, I would thank you so much for introducing me. And I would like to start off with a question to our audience, Tal, because I would really like to find out whether they already use a social media platform today for their B2B purposes. And if so, which one gives them the best ROI, the best return on investment? And in the meantime, of course, I can already elaborate a bit on how it was a necessity for me to find a strategy that fitted my personality. Because if I looked at all the traditional sales and marketing strategies, it all seemed so loud and salesy. What I mean by that is that it just didn't fit my introvert side at all. And after all, I was never going to become a sales or marketing person. So now, trust me, I have many friends and acquaintances who are experts in that area, so I have nothing against them. It's just that it did not fit my personality. And so I needed a system where I could stay true to me as an introvert and still reach my ideal target audience. Now, does that mean that I never have to stretch my comfort zone? Yes, of course, I always have to stretch my comfort zone on a regular basis because that's just life. And ever since I started my business more than 10 years ago, the world has changed a lot. So also the strategies that I use have evolved with it. And if we look at how the online world has evolved from text, for example, to videos, and that's where BIGVU comes in, of course, it's important that you make a conscious decision of whether you want to follow up on that evolution or not. I told myself for years that I wanted to, or that I needed to go on video. But until I found out about BIGVU, I never really wanted to go on video because it didn't feel good enough for me. I never found the tool that could help me exactly the way I wanted it to be. And so ever since BIGVU, I have trained myself to go online, and I see in the same time a lot of people coming in and saying hi via the chat. There are no answers yet, I believe, to my question whether you already, as a viewer, if you use already one of the main social media platforms for B2B purposes. I would love to find out. And also, which one gives you the most ROI, so the most result result on your investment. Now, I was telling you that, of course, a lot of things have changed, and especially also ever since our lockdowns worldwide, and how you use certain systems or tactics as an expert or business owner is, without being a salesperson, is entirely up to you. Now, the world has become very complex, so you need actually a simple but an all-round system, what I call a 360-degree approach to your market. Now, let me talk about some numbers in the same time. There are more than 4 billion people online nowadays, and 91% of decision makers ignore cold calls. 92% of buyers delete mails and voicemails of strangers, and 80% of social network B2B leads come via LinkedIn. And I'm going to say at the chat, introvert here too. Yes, I've tried Instagram mainly, but pulled myself away from it because I was getting frustrated with the ROI and I didn't want to fall into being someone I'm not. Absolutely, I recognize that. I'm on most social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, but I never get my leads from them. I think I'm doing something wrong. This is why I want to learn how to do videos. That's a very good thing, Miss Mimi. I've built my whole business around Facebook ads. Wow. Well, if you already use, of course, money to put behind your strategy, that is also fine. But you can also use, and that's my approach on it, you can also use just your time, which also costs money, but you can use this system where you can really see where the strategy is going, instead of spending money on an online platform where you don't have the full where you don't really have the full knowledge about where it goes, where your money goes. And so I also have a second question, Tel, for our audience. What is the success rate if they use the technique of cold calling, or if they have already used it, what their success rate is of getting a meeting? And in the meantime, I'm going to take a sip of water because, of course, there's a delay. I'm all over the place, but need to do better. I'm going to talk about that too, Grace. That's a good remark, absolutely. And I want to learn video marketing. Well, then you are at the right spot, Eric, because BIGVU does a great thing there, and they really help you doing it. 0 for me, Eric. So you're not using, do I have to understand that as you're not using social media platforms yet to reach your ideal target audience? Or 0 for, oh yeah, for my second question, for the cold calling. Now, I'm going to take, now, I see some excellent numbers here, but I see that there are worldwide, the range is 10 to 20% of getting an appointment from a cold call. Now, that was before the pandemic, because I don't know the figures right now. But to be honest, I consider also an online meeting these days, of course, as a successful result of cold calling. And worldwide, those numbers are in general between 10 to 20%, which means actually that of 10 phone calls, people get 1 to 2 appointments to hopefully speak with the decision maker himself, if you've done, of course, your homework right. Now, to be honest, I've never met an expert or a business owner who is not a salesperson who really likes doing cold calls, me including. I truly hate it. And so that's why I needed to create a system. Now, if you know that the result for a referral mounts up to 50 to 60%, that's already a much better result, isn't it? And if then we can even make that a warm referral, which basically means that, of course, if I ask Tel, with whom I've already established a relationship, via the technique of a magic mail, to refer me to one of her contacts, then the results of getting an appointment can mount between 80 to 90%. So that means that out of 10 contacts, you have the chance of 80 or 90%, 8 out of 10 mails, for example, or 10 contact points, that you have the possibility to have a meeting. Good segmentation leads to good calls, absolutely, and a pretty good conversation rate for appointments. That's great, Andre. I do video, but not getting to my target audience. Then maybe, Grace, you use the video not already on those platforms where you can find your ideal target audience or your ideal target client. Now, besides the fact that the technique that you're using, you can not book that kind of result if there is no foundation or structure behind it. And your client can actually be everywhere. Now, since we are in a global pandemic, I've seen businesses become digital overnight, so to speak, something that maybe they already should have done after the financial crisis of 2008, I believe. Now, from the answers at the beginning of our talk here, Tal, we could detect that there are still some businesses that haven't really discovered the power of online social media as a work tool, a daily work tool for the success of their business. Now, as long as you're still in business and you're not broke, it's never too late, of course. Now, where to start and how to start? First, you have to line up all the big different social media platforms. And let's start with the ones, with the one that we're using right now, YouTube. That is one of them, of course. And I'm going to, in randomly order, I'm going to name the other ones that are important, like Instagram has already been named, Facebook has already been named, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest. Don't forget Clubhouse, the new kid on the block podcast. And I think now we've named the most important ones. Now, if you have listed all these, then you might try to find out where your ideal target client can be found. And here it becomes a bit tricky, because suppose that you have a prospective client who uses during their day for his own professional purposes, for example, LinkedIn, but his wife is the main decision maker for sales and for the purchases at home. And she just loves spending her time on Instagram. And then also she overlooks what her daughter is doing on TikTok during the night. Then you probably get my drift. Your ideal client can actually be anywhere. So the solution, what I always tell my clients, is to maybe start with the one platform that you think is the most likely where you can find your prospective client online, and also look at your own preferences. Where do you have the main fit? With which social media platform do you have a great fit? And start there. Maybe in the example that I gave you, we might start to focus on the husband who is on LinkedIn during the day and checking his messages in the evening, for example. And then you can broaden your spectrum toward other platforms where you also have for the first, well, at first, a basic presence. So people can at least already find you there and find, of course, all the data behind it, like fill out a good bio. I see many Facebook users from their own personal usage, and they don't have they didn't fill out all the different data that people can use to detect where they can find them, like their phone number or their website or a basic description. Also, your bio on LinkedIn, it needs to be really on brand, not only your Instagram presence, but also try to find your niche, depending on where you are in the world, an English speaking or American English, but try to describe your ideal target audience as precise as possible. And I can speak from experience. I see it with a lot of my clients. It gives them, and I have experienced it also, it can give you a bit of a feeling of being afraid, like, oh, but if I go too narrow, then it's possible that I miss a lot of people. Now, if you describe your ideal target client with, for example, 3 main with not a subject, but a noun with 3 main nouns, then it is possible that the possibility of finding a broader or attracting a broader audience is very big, because people can recognize them in a word that you might maybe mean in a different way, and they can still recognize themselves in there. So even if you describe your ideal target client in a very precise way, then your pond from which you can fish or where you can find your ideal target client will be much bigger. And so that might be, that is also the advice that I give my clients always, like, start with one main platform and then elaborate or broaden it toward others. And also in your content that you're going to spread, you can find systems. I have systems where I can help you spread them in a slightly different way, but also reproduce them on other platforms. I've tried conscientious, but never get past the gatekeeper. Indeed, a gatekeeper sometimes keeps you from really getting to your client. And that's where I come later, Miss Mimi. I will tell you another strategy where you can really help. Like I said before, if you are already connected with some ideal clients, then they are at least connected with peers. And I'll show you later how you can find them yourselves on LinkedIn. Now I'm going to keep that for a bit later, so stay tuned here, Miss Mimi. Maybe you've already heard for the war for talent, and it's in HR they use that expression, but actually it's the war for attention. The same goes, by the way, for every expert or business owner, because your prospective client has a choice between, I don't know how many competitors, just like you, just of course, between brackets, because nobody is the same. If you stay true or become true to your own personality, then you will be unique and there will be no competition like you. But that's where you need to use the strategy precisely, because you also need to use the exact words and the exact presence that fits your personality, because it's much easier to work with like-minded people that are attracted to your personality. So you simply cannot become someone else or try to copy someone else. You can try to copy a strategy, but you need to implement it that fitting your own personality. That is a very important distinction. Now, I was talking about the war for talent, which I have turned into the war for attention, because that is the key question here. How do you stand out? How can you attract your ideal client and not your competitor that is maybe next door or in another village or in another country, but also one fingertip or one click on the from their fingertips away online. And so by using the simple technique of staying you and not trying to copy someone else, there is no other way as easy to do that as on social media. Because even your website, it takes a long time before you can adjust that. And then, of course, you already need to know the system behind your website. But on your social media platforms, you can use them as a direct communication tool with your ideal target audience. And again, I always refer to social media as a professional tool, as a producer, and not as a consumer, of course. You need to find your own voice, and then you will attract those clients that fit you best, clients that you can serve best. And since we saw before that today cold calling doesn't really give you the best results, you need an all-round system, what I call a 360-degree approach to your market. Because nowadays it's really a combination of offline networking in person. Maybe you can still see clients. I don't know where you are in the world, but there are still cities or areas or countries that are in complete lockdown, which is now mostly replaced. So the offline networking is mostly replaced by hybrid networking, meaning that, oh, and I have to take a sip of water. Sorry for that. My throat is getting dry. So hybrid networking, what does that really mean? It's actually that we are in person, but we use an online tool. I'm here in front of you. This is live. So this is also a way of hybrid networking, although this is only a one-way direction because we're not really talking to each other directly, although I can see your comments in the chat. Then, of course, you have online networking. You have warm referrals that you also need to use, as I said before, and for which you first need to establish, of course, a great and trustworthy relationship with what we call in professional terms, your first degree network. What does that mean? That are already the people that you are connected with. For example, me and Tal, if you look us up on LinkedIn, that you can see that we are connected. We have made a link between our two online platforms or our two online profiles. So people that can already know you or get to know you, of course, if you start to work with your online tool. I always compare it with a car. I mean, if you have a car and you just keep it in your garage or you keep it on your driveway, it will never get you to places where you want to go unless you step into that car and you start driving your car. And it's the same thing with your online social media platforms. It's not enough that you have a LinkedIn profile, that you have an Instagram account, that you have a Facebook account. You need to work. You need to start working with it the right way, and then it will start to work for you. Okay. I'm going to have a look at the chat again. If there are, wow, people from Costa Rica, people from Ecuador, how great is that? Thank you that you like the tips. I have another question. Who of you has already heard about the term social selling? And what does it mean to you? Just give, if you've already heard of it, if you haven't heard of it, that's fine too. No worries there. But if you have already heard of it, give a description, or I would like to find out what you understand under the term social selling. And I'm going to take a little sip of my water here and see if there are some comments coming in. Now, I'm going to proceed here. Now, most colleagues of mine will tell you that social selling actually means the use of social media in a professional way to obtain your main goal, your ultimate goal, which is selling. Now, it's for sure that your emphasis should be on the being social, right? And so the selling will be a result. But what they don't tell you is that you actually need, like I said before, a 360-degree approach of it. Never heard of the term, Eric? Great that you're here, and great that I can maybe teach you something new. Because I see social selling in a much broader way. Because if you would only know the technique of using your social selling strategies, I mean, if you would only know it in a sense that you can use some online social selling, social platforms, that is not enough, of course. Because suppose that you have a contact that is asking you to connect with you, and you can have then a Zoom call. Of course, you also need to know how to do a Zoom call and in the correct way. If you've already noticed, maybe that is one tip that I can also give you already. If you have a Zoom call, you always need to make sure that the camera and the eye of the camera that is hopefully on your computer in the middle, in the top middle of your screen, that you look in the camera and that it is at the same height of your eyes. I have a laptop lifter or riser under my computer, but you can also do that, of course, lifting or lowering your chair, or you can use simply some books or a box, an Amazon box, for example. But you need to make sure that for a good first impression that you have the eye of the camera at the same level of your own eyes. I mean, you miss a great deal of a good first impression if you don't have that. For example, my background, it's a professional and neutral background. I have also aligned my wardrobe with the background, and also if you look at my own logo, it's in line with the colors of my logo. So those are some little tips where you can make that already that first great impression, and you need to know that. So you need to have a knowledge of a 360-degree approach before you can actually have success with a social selling strategy. Where was I? So, like I said, you need the offline networking tricks, especially as I see there are other introverts I don't know about you, but I used to be that so-called wallflower in the room. When I went to a networking event, I never dared to go alone. I never knew how to start small talk. I have all these systems. I had to create them for myself because I really was bad at selling, and I still can't sell, but I do sell because I have those tactics behind me, and I made it to a strategy that works for me and for especially for people that are not a salesperson. Now, that may sound complex maybe, but that's why I created a simple system that is easy, an easy step-by-step process. Now, the message I wanted to bring mostly is that as an expert or business owner, you need to find your own voice, and you need to find out which tools and tactics fit best with your personality and your goals. And like I said before, maybe you see someone else using something like a strategy that you think, oh, he or she is so successful with that. And then, of course, you need to translate that to your own personality. And then we also come to a very important item. Like I said before, using a social media platform to your benefit and to reach your ideal target so you can service them with your products or services and with your help is important, but you need to do that via sharing your content and your knowledge. And BIGVU, of course, is a great tool to do that via video. I mean, if you haven't used it already, with the prompter, you can make your scripts in front of ahead of making your video, and then you can use the prompter where you can simply tape or record your video with your text in front of you and have a great visibility by also subtitling the text. So, I mean, it's a great tool. Now, Quick Care Rehab says, will you be discussing your system? Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on your question exactly. I don't have a name there, Quick Care Rehab, because like I said, the system is that you make it an all-round system. So you need to know how to connect offline, how to connect online, via which tools, why use which tool, how. You need to create the right content. You need to really create a good network with whom you have established a great know, like, and trust factor. So they need already to know you before you can ask them for a referral. Now, how can you ask for a referral? You need to have the right scripts to do that, because I mean, it's like having a blind date. From the first day, or from the first time, you're not going to ask them immediately, do you want to marry me? So it's the same thing with what I see often is that people connect with me, for example, with LinkedIn, via LinkedIn, or they want to connect with me via LinkedIn, and then they immediately push their product or their service, like, hey, I see that and I can help you with this or with that. So they already push their product without me knowing them already, or without me having any connection with them yet. So your first reach to a possible prospective client needs to be also the right via the right way, and use the right techniques. So I guess I also was wondering, I see your question here now, or how you overcame, or what systems you put in place for networking in real life situations. That's a good question. I found out that I was very, very bad at small talk. So I started to study how I could do that, staying true to myself, because, and actually small talk is about simple things. I tried to practice it, for example, in the supermarket with the cashier, the lady behind or the cashier in the supermarket, or someone who is walking around there, just by asking them a simple question about a certain product that I needed, and or by simply giving people in the street a great compliment, because I wanted to practice to overcome that fear of talking to someone without having to be, for example, or without having to come with rocket science. So I have created a lot of simple sentences that you can use about the event, about the venue, about the speaker that is there. I also refer to my good friend Bob Burke, who is really known for his 10 feel-good questions, where you can really find some very deep questions, and you will see that those only 10 questions, 9 out of 10 maybe doesn't fit you, because they are based on different personalities and for different types of people that he wrote them. But that's also something that you can look up. And you actually give me an idea of maybe creating a freebie about some simple small talk conversation starters. I'm going to work on that quick care rehab. Sorry, I have to call you that because that's the only thing I can see here. But that might be a help. I see that we are already 30 minutes. Tal, if you give me one more, a few quick seconds, I'm going to show a technique where you can find yourself, your ideal client on LinkedIn. So I'm going to switch now to, and I need to be here. I have opened already the different tabs that I need. Now, if you enter your LinkedIn profile, we're always going to work, of course, on a laptop or a desktop, because then you are really on the website of LinkedIn, not on your app on your smartphone, because that doesn't give you that much possibilities and that much features. But if you work on the website itself, on your laptop or desktop, when you open your LinkedIn profile, you will arrive on your homepage. And then if you click here on the Google Glass that is here, and you simply enter, then you will arrive here. I'm going to go over this a bit quick because I didn't want to be stuck due to the internet, of course. So it might be that you get this kind of result. Just look at the way it looks here, because my result will be different from your result, because it's all based on my network, of course. And then you can see here a few filters. And if you click on all filters, you see that I have arrived on posts. Now you need to click on the little upside down triangle, and you need to click on people. Then you will arrive here, and I've already filled it out. This is where you can ideally describe and find your ideal target audience. Now you want to work from your second degree network. Why? Because that means that those are people that are connected with your first degree connections, and they are also connected with that first degree connection. So there is someone in between them and you where you are both connected with, and I'm going to show you the result. So suppose that here you always need to click on the second one. Suppose that I'm going to search in the United States, and then the third parameter that I always suggest, of course, if you want to have a good result, is that here in title, you've seen that I scrolled all the way down, that here in title I describe my ideal target, or my decision maker with whom I do business on a regular basis. I have described him here using Boolean searches, as we call them. And if I then click on show result, I can show you here my live result of 6,100 people that fall within that range of being in my second degree network, meaning that in the middle, there is always someone that I could ask more information about that person, because it means that the person in the middle is connected with me and also connected with that person that I have here in name. And I can even click on, for example, this person. I arrive I didn't open that yet. So as you can see, the network takes some time. I can arrive on this person's profile. I can check it out, and then I can decide for myself if this is, for example, my ideal target client that I would like to talk to. And then I can ask the person in between. Here in this case, for example, Barry, I could ask him some more information, or I could ask him via the technique of a magic mail to refer me to that person. Tel, I think we are more or less in the timing that you envisioned for our webinar here, and that was a tool that I wanted to show our audience, because even if you have a free profile, and if you're, I mean, every level of free or paying profile does have that tool on his profile, so I didn't want to keep that from them.
Great. Yeah, you're just on time. It's all good. Feel free to ask more questions. Now I will send you Veronique information in the chat, and also BIGVU's information. Feel free to ask questions to Veronique, and also if you have questions about BIGVU, I can respond. And you already have a question now, so you can start by answering that.
I also feel it depends on if your clientele is business or people. Right. Yes, Miss Me, though, in your case, because you were referring to churches, I mean, I am in a network in the States where there are a lot of people that are either a volunteering church or are really connected. So they are really online. I mean, you might maybe look under the term of John Maxwell, and then I can assure you, you will find a lot of people there. And of course, use that term of, I don't know exactly who you want to talk to, but if you use that term in the subject line where I told you the title on your LinkedIn profile, I'm sure you're going to find a lot of them. And if you don't find them, make sure you connect with me, and I will refer them to you, because I'm sure I will find a lot of them. So I hope that helps, Miss Mimi.
Okay, great. I see that we have no more questions. Let's give them a few more seconds to ask. In the meantime, I just want to thank you, Veronique, for a fascinating workshop, and all of you for listening. Thank you all.
Yes.
I send you in the chat all the information, so feel free to contact us or Veronique, of course. And see you in the next workshop.
Thank you so much, Tal, and thank you everybody for your time and your interesting remarks and questions. And see you somewhere else online, maybe.